Hello, it's your Gen X Big Sister here, and I wanted to give you an update from yesterday's video. I had talked about my nervousness, my butterflies around deciding to lead and facilitate a virtual coffee chat yesterday, and I just wanted to update how it went. So it turned out that I think it was 26, 27 women signed up for yesterday's session. And the whole point of it was just to connect with other Gen X women, people like ourselves. There was no real agenda. It was not, for business networking. It was for friendship and just to connect with other women. And so I had 30 signed up for this particular session, and 17 showed up, which on a Sunday afternoon, I think is pretty good. A 50% show rate is probably feels pretty standard. But so we had 17 women, and just like I called it yesterday that like once I got started and once we got going, that my nerves were going to go away. There weren't going to be any butterflies or any of that stress feeling or anxiety feeling. In fact, it was the opposite. I don't know what hormones it is, dopamine or whatever it is, adrenaline, something started to course through me as I began to connect live with these women who we've interacted, online, commenting on each other's posts and making comments and talking about interesting subjects and topics, putting aside current events in the country. And we actually laid that as a ground rule that, we were strangers. We didn't know each other well enough to navigate any political topics, maybe at some point as we get to know each other better. But this was for trying to get to know each other a little bit as people first. And the experience was everything that I had hoped it would be and more. I felt the connections even through the screen, and even with 17 of us on there. We took turns sharing different things. I opened up by asking, what is one word that describes this particular season of your life? So that was sort of the conversation starter. And then I got as far as my second, I had several prompts planned just in case. I ended up only really needing to use two. The second one was the why. Why did we think this was a good idea to get together and connect? What's the purpose here? And just those two prompts and those two questions filled an entire hour of conversation and of sharing. And it ran the gamut. Like we had women really, really share some vulnerable things. And some of them admittedly talked about how difficult that was to do in front of like a group of people. But there were, women going through divorce, women who had recently lost their husbands, women who had recently lost their jobs or careers, or had recently moved across country or changed countries. So there were so many different types of experiences that they were going through. And when we talked about friendships, which was the topic that I've been chatting about these last few days, most of them mentioned that the reason why they wanted to get together in this manner is they wanted to make some efforts to have some connections, women to women, woman to woman, and to expand their friends. And even though we were virtual and we were from all over the country, we are going to compile our contact information on where we are. And I think that we could even help each other and support each other in nurturing and finding friendships in our own local area as well. And I heard from a couple of the women, they shared, and this was something that I haven't really talked about. And I do spend a lot of time thinking about this, and I think I've spent time acting on it, but there's always room for improvement. Is a couple of women talked about how upsetting it was for them when they were in times of need, finding out finding out who your friends are, who's there for you, who responds to you, who doesn't wait for you to initiate, that's initiating first to connect, and women who felt like they were doing most of the initiation and that they weren't getting back what they were giving into their friendships. And that's also part of what's making them feel lacking in this area of their life. There were quite a few women whose plates are very, very full, taking care of their own health challenges, taking care of their parents, taking care of their now adult or almost adult children. All of that, meaning they do need the support that a friendship supplies, but they find that they don't necessarily have the bandwidth for it or the energy. And I think sometimes they wish that somebody was just there for them beyond their partner. So a lot of shared challenges and a lot of amazing encouragement that happened naturally. Some really uplifting perspectives and a lot of kudos and congratulations happen with women were sharing some of the accomplishments that they had, and there was a lot of reassuring statements and empathy being shared for each other. And it, so it's making me want to dig into this topic a little further. And when I talked about the women who were disappointed that their friendships weren't being reciprocated in the way that they were initiating, it made me think, well, what can we do about that? I have had a history of I don't necessarily expect a lot of reciprocation. I've almost assumed the role of I'm willing to go more than halfway. I'm willing to meet you more than halfway, especially if we're at a season of life where I have the time and space to do that and you don't. And and that's worked for me for most of my life, but there have been times when it would be nice to have had somebody there for me, but I didn't think to ask for it. So I think it comes down to communication. I think it comes down to what do you want from this friendship? What are you willing and able to give? And what would you like to receive? I don't think we have a lot of those types of real conversations. And I look forward to talking to these women in the coffee chat about that more, because I think it might be a generational thing. I don't know, but I feel generationally, our generation, we're not as well skilled at having those sensitive conversations. And if we do, maybe just with a husband or a partner, or maybe just with a therapist. I don't know. I don't know. I think we may need more work in that regards. Correct me if I'm wrong there. If you are a Gen X person who is very gifted and skilled at navigating those sensitive conversations, potentially sensitive. I don't know why they're considered sensitive, but if you're skilled at it, I really want to hear from you, because I want to hear, how did you become skilled at it? I've been working on it all of my adult life. I worked on it in my professional life first because I had to. In order to continue to advance in corporate America, I had to be good at managing difficult conversations and handling conflict. And I became reasonably good at that, above average at it professionally. But making that transition to doing it personally is an opportunity for me. And frankly, an opportunity for a lot of women my age that I see around me as well. All that to say, yesterday's experience was beautiful. It was a light in my day. It was a light in my weekend. I got off that call feeling energized. I was a little bit drained because the introvert in me, the whole act of being, engaged and on and interacting solid for an hour. I was a little bit emotionally drained, but I was still had like an adrenaline rush, and I ended up having like a hugely productive rest of my day, just action, action, action. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I look forward to seeing where this takes us and what this evolves into and what kind of connections that we make. But just a little bit of words, food for thought. Let me know your thoughts on the communication, on the friendships, particularly as it comes with Gen X. This is your Gen X sister, Gen X Big Sister, signing off. Please remember to like and subscribe so we can go on this journey together. And I'll talk to you soon.